So it's that time of the year where we're all thinking about that summer escape to our favorite destinations. But you may want to think twice about some of these locations because, quite simply, it's fully overloaded and the locals have had enough. So maybe in this video, you'll be able to see what places that I highly recommend that you avoid this year. So we're going to start with a couple of places outside of Europe, and two of them are in Japan. Tokyo. Now this is a dream destination for absolutely everyone, with its neon lit lights, bustling markets and the historic temples, but during the peak tourist seasons, especially starting from the cherry blossom season, this city becomes overwhelmingly crowded. So much so that even the local stores and the shops have no foreigner signs on the windows because they've kind of had enough. The popular spots like Shibuya Crossing and, as I mentioned, shrines are packed, making it very difficult to enjoy the experience fully. And one of the other major issues comes with domestic travel prices. As the tourists stay in all the business hotels, it kind of hikes up the price, which is a massive problem for the local business travelers. So I think you should completely avoid going to Tokyo during the summer season. Kyoto, another Japanese tourist hotspot, and it's become one of the world's most desirable travel destinations, thanks to its large range of Shinto shrines, the Buddhist temples, the palaces, and of course the beautiful gardens, and some of which have become UNESCO World Heritage Sites. You know, the popular hotspots such as Arashiyama and the Fushimi Inari, which are kind of not possible to walk comfortably now because it's overwhelmingly crowded. Even just last year, tourists have been banned from certain private streets in Kyoto's famous historic Gion district. So check this out, it's insane. So here you can see the lady literally chasing after one of the locals just to get a picture. Insane. Like, what is she doing? Folks, if that was you, how would you react? The next destination is Barcelona, Spain. Now, I still don't understand why people come to Barcelona just for the beach. It's a very buzzy city, full of beautiful architecture and a lot of culture, but just recently, it became the focal point for lots of anti-tourism protests. Does anyone remember on the news where all those frustrated locals started using water pistols to make their point and started squirting it at everyone who was sitting around the outdoor restaurants? So this city faces so many issues with over-tourism. So I think you should really avoid this city this year. I mean, there are plenty of other city breaks where you can also explore a beautiful Spanish city, such as Valencia. Less crowded, plenty of stunning beaches, and you get the historical landmarks and plenty of food, with prices that are more reasonable. The next destination I would really avoid this summer is Rome. And I understand what you're thinking. How can you possibly want to miss one of the most iconic destinations in the world? Timeless landmarks like the Colosseum and the Vatican City. But I'm telling you, visiting in the summer is an absolute nightmare. The city gets unbearably crowded. You're not going to get the best types of pictures or experiences. The long lines at all the major attractions, plus the hike in prices. And believe me, it's a lot of a bigger hike than you may think. The narrow streets packed with so many people, and not forgetting the scorching heat these years. So it's easy for a dream holiday to Rome to be completely exhausting, and believe me, you will feel that way. But I think if you want to enjoy Rome at its best, just visit during the cooler months. The next destination is Prague. It is a beautiful city, but it's always been one of the faces of over-tourism in the past decade. The majority of people arrive in the summer. So Prague has always been busy even before COVID, but now those numbers have crept all the way back up. There are even direct flights from far eastern countries like Taipei or even Seoul. So you can imagine there's even more people descending onto Prague. Places like Charles Bridge and the Old Town are completely rammed. And it brings along those bloody pickpockets. And I really think that you don't need to visit Prague in the summer. There are more other chances throughout the year to take a trip there. But the good news is, there is a much better alternative in the city of Brno. Tallinn in Estonia. And it is one of the most overloaded cities in Europe. Known for its beautifully preserved medieval town, and Tallinn attracts quite a number of tourists, especially relative to its population, with at least 10 tourists for every local resident. And that's during the peak summer season. So you can imagine the narrow cobblestone streets and all the historic sites can become quite crowded between the months of June to August. So if you want to experience Tallinn's charm without the crowds, then I would consider visiting in late April or early October. Number 9 is surprisingly Dublin Ireland, and it's easily one of the most overloaded cities in Europe. It's known for its rich history, its lively pubs, and 100% guaranteed its friendly atmosphere. But it sees around at least 11 tourists per local during the peak summer months. So you can imagine the busy streets, particularly around Temple Bar and Grafton Street, it can become quite congested, especially from June to August. So if you want more of a relaxing time in Ireland, of course you can go to a different part of the country, which I've just made a video on that, or I would go to Dublin in early May or late September. And also to be wary about, Dublin is suffering from a lot of local issues with mass immigration at the moment, so you may want to visit other parts of the country. Number 8 is no surprise, Amsterdam, Netherlands. Renowned for its picturesque canals to historic museums that I never really go to, but definitely a vibrant nightlife. This city draws so many visitors every year, but sadly there's at least 12 tourists for every local resident, especially during the summer months. But the city's unique charm can feel overshadowed by the huge crowds of tourists. So if you want to enjoy Amsterdam's beauty without the crowds, I will suggest you visit in early May or late September again. The city is far less busier, and you can always enjoy all the major attractions like the Van Gogh Museum and the very popular Anne Frank House without those incredibly long queues. Number 7 might surprise you. It's Heraklion in Greece, and it's one of the most overloaded cities in Europe. Known for its fascinating history and its proximity to the legendary palace of Knossos. There are huge crowds each summer, so the city sees at least 15 tourists per local resident during those peak months, which can make all the charming streets and trying to visit those archaeological sites feel incredibly crowded and overwhelming. You'd probably think Athens would be more crowded, but it has a population of at least 3 million compared to Heraklion's 180,000. So try to visit in late April or even October, because there's still warm weather and there are far easier chances to explore Crete's rich heritage and all the wonderful archaeological sites. Number 6, Florence. It's one of the most crowded cities that I've ever been. famous for its breathtaking Renaissance art and its architecture, including the iconic Duomo and the Uffizi Gallery. But Florence, as you can easily imagine, experiences a tourist to resident ratio that often feels overwhelming, with at least 17 tourists for every resident during the peak season. And those narrow streets, especially near the bridge and historic sites, become densely packed, and you pretty much can't get into any of the wonderful museums and when you want to check out some of the Renaissance art. And I suggest you visit in late autumn. Number 5, Reykjavik, Iceland. With 17 tourists per local, Reykjavik crowds into 5th place on this list. Known for its beautiful nature and its rugged landscapes, Iceland boasts some of the most stunning waterfalls, blue lagoons, extraordinary glaciers, and those active volcanoes. So you can imagine most people want to visit, surprise, surprise, during the summer months, between June and August. And that's because the weather is at its mildest, so it's understandable. But May and September are the ideal shoulder months. Up next on this list is Rhodes, Greece, the largest of the Dodecanese islands. Now, Rhodes is known for its ancient ruins, the stunning beach resorts for families, so it's easy to see why they gave 21 tourists per local. Lined with medieval streets and palaces, you can get history and stunning beaches all in the same location. But trust me, I recommend that you visit in the months of April and May to avoid the peak holiday season, because on top of all the crowds, you'll find that there are much higher prices. Taking in 3rd place is the medieval architectural wonder of Bruges. Now, this is a small town with a big reputation, and coming in with a whopping 21 tourists per local. It draws in the crowds that start in late May through most of the summer, and all the tourists cram into the city and enjoy the stunning architecture and those picturesque canals, because that's the reason why you would visit. As well as holding the status of being a UNESCO World Heritage Site, it's a must-visit city. But the best time to visit would be in autumn. Number 2 is Venice. With small streets and narrow bridges, it makes sense why this city always feels overcrowded. It has a complicated history with overtourism. The yearly amount of tourists has a huge strain on its infrastructure. And one of the main issues is because of the day trippers that usually come from cruise ships. So apparently, stopping over for a few hours doesn't really have any economic benefit for the city. So of course, the city banned cruise ships. But Venice will always require daily tourists to make reservations, pay a fee to enter the city. So I recommend September to November. Very romantic time of the year. And finally, number 1, the city that takes the prize, Dubrovnik. The most overloaded city in Europe, with a whopping 36 tourists for one local. Known for its stunning orange rooftops and its feature in the famous Game of Thrones. So having a relatively small population, Dubrovnik kind of sees a mass amount of tourists during the summer months. especially during July and August, and where the prices are even more expensive. So I recommend that you visit in early April and late September to mid-October to beat the crowds. So folks, what do you think? Are you planning on going to one of these cities in the summer? Because I will say good luck.